Welcome to Bedtime Stories. Please make sure you press subscribe to get notified of new stories and, of course, share them with a friend. And now the story of Pinocchio. There once was a carpenter named Geppetto. One day he was walking through an enchanted forest when he heard a voice. "Hello." Geppetto looked around and soon realized the voice was coming from a magic piece of wood. "Talking wood?" he thought. "How unusual." Geppetto took the magic wood home and carved a little puppet boy from it. He gave the boy a suit of clothes and a hat with a feather in it. The wooden boy danced around the room for Geppetto and made him laugh. Geppetto named the boy Pinocchio. "You must go to school like the other children," Geppetto told him. So the next morning Pinocchio skipped off to school on his wooden legs. As he went along, a cricket hopped onto his shoulder. "You look like you could use a friend," he told Pinocchio. "I will help you learn right from wrong." A little farther down the road, Pinocchio met a fox and a cat. They had heard the sound of lunch money jingling in his pocket. "Don't bother going to school," said the fox. "Come and play with us instead." Pinocchio, not knowing any better, thought that sounded like a good idea. "I don't think you're doing the right thing," the cricket told him. "You promised your father you would go to school." But Pinocchio paid no attention to the cricket. The cat and the fox led Pinocchio into a dark forest. "If you plant your money here, it will grow into a money tree," they told him. "Just come back tomorrow, and you'll see." "That doesn't sound right. That money was for your lunch," said the cricket. But Pinocchio didn't listen. He dug a hole in the ground and buried the coins in it. Then Pinocchio went home feeling very hungry. He did not tell his father that he hadn't been to school. The next morning, Pinocchio didn't go to school either. Instead, with the cricket on his shoulder, he skipped into the forest to find his money tree. When Pinocchio reached the spot where he had buried the coins, there was no money tree. He dug down to look for the coins he had planted, but they were gone. "The fox and the cat have played a trick on you," said the cricket. "They just wanted to get your money." Pinocchio felt rather silly, but he pretended he didn't care. He stomped off into the forest. "I'm going on an adventure," he said. The cricket begged him to go back to Geppetto, but Pinocchio walked on until it was dark, and he was a little scared. Soon they came to a tiny cottage. Pinocchio ran to the door and knocked loudly. A pretty fairy with turquoise hair answered the door. "We're lost," explained Pinocchio. "Please, can you help us?" The fairy invited them in and gave them some food. "Why are you so far from home?" she asked kindly. Pinocchio did not want to tell her that he had disobeyed his father. "I was chased by a giant," he lied. Suddenly, Pinocchio's nose grew a little. "The giant was taller than the trees," continued Pinocchio. Pinocchio's nose grew some more. "And I ran into the forest to escape," he continued, and Pinocchio's nose grew again. He touched it in wonder. "I have put a spell on you," said the fairy. "Every time you tell a lie, your nose will grow." Pinocchio began to cry. How he wished he had gone to school like his father had said. "I won't tell any more lies," promised Pinocchio. The fairy called some friendly woodpeckers who pecked at Pinocchio's long nose until it was back to the way it used to be. In the morning, Pinocchio rushed back through the forest with a little cricket perched on his shoulder. "From now on, I will do just as father tells me," he said. But when he got home, Geppetto wasn't there. Instead, there was a note on the kitchen table. The note read, dear Pinocchio, I have gone to look for you. I miss you, my son. Your loving father, Geppetto." Pinocchio was very sad. He knew he had caused a lot of trouble. "We must find him and bring him home," he sobbed. So he and the cricket set off once again. They began their search down by the river. Pinocchio stood too near the edge of the water, and he fell in with a splash. The cricket jumped in to help him, but they were both swallowed by an enormous fish. But there, in the fish's tummy, they found Geppetto. Pinocchio hugged his father tightly. "I won't leave you again," he said. The clever wooden boy took the feather from his hat and tickled the fish. "Chew!" The fish gave a mighty sneeze, and Geppetto, Pinocchio, and the cricket shot back out of the fish's mouth and landed on the bank of the river. That night, when Pinocchio was tucked into his own little bed, fast asleep, the fairy with turquoise hair flew in through his window. "You are a good, brave boy," she said as he slept, and she kissed him on the forehead. When Pinocchio awoke the next morning, he found that he was no longer made from wood. He was a real boy. From then on, he was always a good son to Geppetto, and the best of friends with the cricket, who didn't need to tell him right from wrong ever again. Thank you for listening to Bedtime Stories. Please make sure you subscribe to follow us for new stories and leave a rating. If you enjoyed today's story, forward it to a friend. If you have a suggestion for a new story, send us an email, magicmonorail@gmail.com. Until next time, good night. Would you like to make a podcast? Spotify has a way to let you make one easily, distribute it everywhere, and even earn money, all in one place, for free. It's called Spotify for Podcasters, and here's how it works. Spotify for Podcasters lets you record and edit right from your phone or computer, so you can start creating today. Then you can distribute your podcast to Spotify and everywhere else podcasts are heard. And video podcasts are also available on Spotify. With Spotify for Podcasters, you can earn money in a variety of ways, including ads and podcast subscriptions. And best of all, it's totally free. You know, ever since I discovered Spotify for Podcasters, I've enjoyed sharing my favorite stories with children around the world. If you've ever thought of starting your own podcast, download the Spotify for Podcasters app or go to spotify.com/podcasters to get started.